Okay, let's jump right in. We're talking diagnosis documentation for Casemix. And leading the way is Dr. Syafiq from the Casemix Unit at Hospital Sultan Idris Shah, Serdang. Now, documentation can sound a bit dry, but listen to this. It's the heartbeat of our hospital's story. Every word you write has real power. It shapes patient care and helps determine our hospital's resources. And believe it or not, we can make this process meaningful and, yeah, even rewarding. So let's get you documenting like a pro with some simple rules, great examples, and easy tips. Because remember, this is how we care, we code, and ultimately, how we make a real difference. Welcome. Today, we're jumping right into the ICD-11 Diagnosis Documentation Guidelines. This is all about the power of getting things just right, and how the notes you jot down in a patient's chart are, honestly, the most critical starting point for everything else that happens in healthcare. So think about this for a second. What is the real connection between your pen or your keyboard and the safety of your patient? It might seem like a simple question, right? But the answer is massive. That link is your clinical documentation. It's one of the most powerful tools you have because every single word you write kicks off a chain reaction that goes way, way beyond that one patient's chart. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the why, the big picture, before we break down the core principles of getting it right. Then we'll get really practical with specific cases like obstetrics and injuries. And finally, we'll wrap it all up and see just how powerful precision really is. Okay, let's start at square one. Proper documentation isn't just about paperwork or ticking boxes. Nope, it is the absolute foundation for all valid health data. It's where the story of a patient's care begins. And believe me, that story has a long journey ahead of it. Just think about the life of a single diagnosis. It all starts with you, right there at the bedside, making sure care is continuous and creating a solid legal record. But from there, it gets turned into coded data for health statistics. And that data? It goes on to shape health policy, fuel critical research, and even determine hospital funding through the Casemix system. On top of all that, it lets us compare our health outcomes with other countries. And it all circles back to what you first wrote down. So how do we make sure we get it right every single time? Well, it really just comes down to a few core principles. And the very first one is simple. Accurate diagnosis documentation is every single clinician's responsibility. It's on all of us. Good documentation really stands on three pillars. First, it's got to be complete. I'm talking about covering all the conditions that are relevant to the patient's stay. Second, it has to be incredibly precise. Specify the exact anatomical site, the laterality. Is it the left leg or the right? That detail matters. And third, it needs to be causal. Use clear language like due to or secondary to, so we can see exactly how different conditions are connected. Now, here's a term we're going to use a lot, main diagnosis. It's so important that we're all on the same page with this. This isn't just the first symptom the patient complained about. No, it's the condition that, after all the tests and investigations are done, is found to be the main reason for their admission and care. And to make that crystal clear, let's put it side by side. The main diagnosis is the reason they're in the hospital bed. Secondary diagnoses, those are other things going on, comorbidities or complications that might change the treatment plan or affect how long they need to stay. You've got to document both to paint the full picture. All right, let's shift from theory to practice. It's time to apply these principles to a real-world scenario, and we'll start with obstetric cases. These have their own very specific guidelines under Chapter 18 of the ICD-11. Now listen, here is the most crucial point for obstetrics. If a mother has a condition that complicates her pregnancy or is complicated by the pregnancy, that condition is your main diagnosis, period. This means you always have to lead with the specific Chapter 18 codes, the STEM codes, that officially flag it as an obstetric case. And here's what that looks like. It's not enough to just write gestational diabetes. That precise phrasing, pregnancy complicated by, is what creates the direct link we need for correct coding, for accurate statistics on maternal health, and for understanding public health trends. It's a game changer. Okay, next up, injuries. This is another area where precision is absolutely everything, and it involves a special two-part documentation process using both Chapter 22 and Chapter 23 of the codebook. Let me be really clear about this. This part is non-negotiable. It is not enough to say what the injury is. You have to say why it happened. You need to document both the specific nature of the injury and the external event that caused it. This dual coding is a core feature of ICD-11. And here is that principle in action. See, we've got the specific injury, open fracture of left tibia, and we've got the external cause, due to motorcycle collision. This one clear, complete statement gives the coders everything they need to assign the right codes from both chapters. It's perfect. But what about conditions that show up way later? We call these late effects or sequelae. For these, that causal link has to be just as clear. Using a phrase like secondary to and including the date of the original event, just like in this example, directly connects the patient's current epilepsy to that head injury from the past. No ambiguity. Okay, let's tackle one final scenario, and this one is covered in Chapter 24. What do you do when a patient is in the hospital but not for a current illness? Things like routine checkups, getting immunizations, or just being watched for observation. The role here is actually super simple. The reason for the encounter is the diagnosis. If someone is there for a routine check or because they were exposed to something, that context is exactly what you need to write down. Here's a situation we see all the time. The patient was kept for observation because everyone suspected dengue, but in the end, it was ruled out. This phrasing is perfect. It captures the reason for the admission and the final outcome, which allows the right Chapter 24 code to be assigned as the main diagnosis. Being specific is just as important for what a patient doesn't have. Don't just leave a suspected condition blank if it's ruled out. Using phrases like personal history of or ruled out after investigation provides critical information. It clears up any confusion and leads to much more precise coding and reliable case mix data. So, let's pull all of this together. After looking at these examples, it's pretty clear that this is about so much more than just filling out forms, right? This is about learning to use the incredible power of precision. I absolutely love this metaphor. Your documentation is that vital bridge. It's what translates the hands-on clinical work you do every single day into the data that fuels our entire health system's intelligence, its planning, and its funding. You're building that bridge with every entry. And that's not just some abstract idea. It has real, tangible results. Your precision directly strengthens patient safety by creating a clear, unambiguous record. It ensures fair hospital funding through accurate case mix data. And ultimately, it contributes to the overall standard of healthcare excellence right here in Malaysia. We've all heard that first part of the quote a million times, right? If it's not documented, it didn't happen. But it's the second part that truly matters now. It's not just about proving that something took place. It's about documenting it with such precision that it clearly defines the high quality of care that was delivered. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. The next time you pick up your pen or open a patient's file, just pause and think about the journey that information is about to go on. What story of precision, of clarity, and of quality care will your next patient record tell?